Okay, so Smackdown Lowdown. Um, I'm actually. I think this is the second pay per view in a row now where I can say that I'm legitimately more excited for the SmackDown component of the pay per view than I am the Raw component of the pay per view. Though I would still, just like I said, this going into Elimination Chamber, I would still say that I'm much more excited about the Raw component of WrestleMania than I am the SmackDown component of WrestleMania. And maybe if creative feels like the best way to balance it is to have one show be more prominent in the lead up to WrestleMania pay-per-views, and like one show to be like so I guess for one show during the lead up to WrestleMania to be more focused on the individual pay-per-views leading to it, and to have one show be more focused on the long game, which is all the way to WrestleMania, which we're getting closer and closer to now anyways. I mean, after Sunday, both shows will just be focusing on WrestleMania. So there might be something to the way they've done this, though. Creative may have made a pretty good choice in having Raw play the long game since Royal Rumble and having SmackDown focus. There wasn't really a whole lot of WrestleMania talk on SmackDown. It's been focusing. We went from Royal Rumble to Elimination Chamber, and from Elimination Chamber to Fastlane, and we're taking it step by step. Whereas we know what's going to happen for all the Raw, not all of the matches for WrestleMania involving people on Raw. That's not what I mean. But the main Raw matches that we've been aware of since Royal Rumble, nothing's really changed with the dynamic with those in the pay-per-views until Fastlane. We are getting a little bit of I have a tendency to maybe kind of like not count it the same because Becky and Charlotte are traditional for the last year at least. More even traditionally SmackDown wrestlers, right? But are involved heavily in the lead up to WrestleMania on Raw as well. So that match is involving both brands, I guess, at the same time. But still, I still kind of feel like for the most part, we haven't had to worry much about what's going on at the pay-per-views for the Raw story, and we have for the SmackDown story, and that may be a good way to have done this. Either way, this show is opening with Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan making their way to the ring. Daniel Bryan basically calls Kevin Owens fat. Kevin Owens comes out and says that he's been watching from home for 5 months or something like that, and I can't even believe it's been that long. To be honest with you, like he's been off TV. That's surprising to me. And they have a little scuffle where Kevin Owens gets kind of beat up a little bit, and I think there was a couple seconds there where he was kind of taking it to Daniel pretty good, and it's kind of a typical go home show thing where we're kind of getting proof that the challenger can beat the champion, right? But they don't give it to us all the way. It's interrupted by something or someone. In this case, it's Eric Rowan. And it wasn't a match anyway, but Eric Rowan comes in and gives Kevin a good slam. Then we have The Miz versus Jey Uso. And that begins with a promo by the Usos about The Miz mostly, but The Miz and Shane. And this is actually a really funny promo. It's the first of two really funny promos and spots that we'll have tonight. And I can't remember what it all was. Just, saying like Yas and bestie and just kind of picking on maybe some of the more metropolitan aspects of The Miz and the way he kind of buys into like pop or Instagram culture or whatever. So um, and so anyway, excuse me for a second. My notes just accidentally zoomed all the way down to the bottom of the page, and we're nowhere near there yet. But The Miz versus Jey Uso, yeah, it starts off pretty quick. There's actually pretty good in-ring chemistry between those two working together, which is cool actually. But ultimately, it's kind of wasted in the match because it's very short. It's like a 5-minute match that ends on Shane McMahon kind of distracting Jay, and then The Miz comes up from behind and rolls him up. Excuse me. Pretty standard, though. Pretty standard stuff. So R-Truth, he comes out for the other really funny spot, and Lacey Evans interrupts, and after she's just been doing this thing, if you haven't been watching, where she just shows up and then walks out, turns around and leaves. That's it. And so she comes out and she leaves, and R-Truth yells out something like, "Hey, sexy glove lady, get back here," or something, and that made me laugh out loud when I heard it. And Miss Sexy Gloves, I think that's what he called her, Miss Sexy Gloves. Anyway, it made me laugh. And he tried to tell Carmella that, well, that must have been the United States Open Challenge because she's the one that came out and she left, so I must be good. I must be done. I get to keep the belt. And Carmella's like, no, that's not what John Cena would do or whatever. And R-Truth yells out like, "Damn you, John Cena!" And that's pretty. Again, I laughed out loud. Really funny. It's he's funny. R-Truth is funny. He makes me laugh. It's silly, but it really does. It makes me laugh. Anyway, the match ends up turning into it's a fatal 4-way between Andrade, Rey Mysterio, Samoa Joe, and R-Truth. And as far as like surprising or notable spots within the match, Samoa Joe at one point in time hits a really nasty looking suicide dive on Andrade. I think it was Andrade. And there's a really, really wicked looking spot where Joe has Rey Mysterio cut up on his shoulder, and they're over near the barricade. And R-Truth, I believe it was, drop kicks Samoa Joe in the back, causing him to lurch forward toward the barricade, not only hitting the barricade and having been drop kicked, but he also then throws at the same time Rey Mysterio Jr. right over the barricade. And that was a really, really cool looking spot. Andrade not only hits three amigos on Rey Mysterio Jr., but then he gets up on the top turnbuckle and does the little shimmy thing which I can't do. But he does a little Eddie Guerrero taunt again in Mysterio's direction, and Mysterio gets a little bit of revenge for that. There's an excellent spot where R-Truth is caught in the coquina clutch, and it's right in front of the ropes, and Rey Mysterio breaks up that submission attempt by hitting Samoa Joe with a 619 over top of R-Truth. It was a really good spot. The way they set it up, it's like maybe if I was there and could see the whole ring in a wide shot all at once, I maybe would have seen that coming. But the way they set it up for the TV viewers was excellent. I don't know about you, but I watch a lot of wrestling, and I get to the point where I can almost kind of call what's going to happen before it does. I think it's not something special to me. I just think anybody who watches enough wrestling and likes it enough is going to be able to kind of see what's going to happen. And I don't mean like in just you throw two random dudes out. I mean two dudes I've watched not necessarily even fight each other before, but just two dudes I've watched fight enough before. And you get a sense of what's coming when, even when they aren't trying to telegraph it too much. Even when you're just seeing guys get set up in certain positions in certain parts of the ring, you're like, oh, this is happening. Like you're in a Rey Mysterio Jr. match, it wouldn't be nearly as fun if the 619 wasn't such an impressive and athletic move, because every time a dude's on his knees in front of the ropes, facing the ropes, you know it's coming. You don't know it's going to work necessarily. I mean, they tamper our expectations a little bit with that, which is good. But I mean, if you think about it, if it wasn't itself such a visually stunning move, it would be kind of boring because the dude's got to be on his knees facing the rope to make it work. And I mean, in the course of a fight, like in a real fight, you could never have some sort of move or some sort of strategy that only worked if your opponent was in one position that they got a 100 chance of getting into over the course of a fight. So in that sense, it can be a little bit of a telegraphed move, like really badly, if you're just watching a fight and you know what to expect with Rey Mysterio. I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just I always know it's coming, and you do too, I'm sure. But this was a really good 619. It was set up really well as well. And then at one point in time, it really looks like Rey Mysterio is going to win the fight, but then Samoa Joe, who I think is recovering from that 619, gets up out of nowhere, and while Rey is trying to pin Andrade, drops a senton on Rey's back to knock Rey out of the fight, picks up Andrade, who was already being pinned, so he was already vulnerable. He picks him up as like a little, there's a slam of some kind, and then gets the pin. And I can't believe this. And Joe's the new United States champion, which is good. I think he's a good person to have it, as long as they're willing to put it on TV, and you don't even need to see a United States championship match every week, but just to see it involved in the drama somehow every week will be nice. And hopefully that's what happens. And I think Samoa Joe will be a great heel champion. I can't believe it's his first main roster championship. When they said that, I went and looked it up because sometimes they like retcon their history a little bit. Not so much lately, but sometimes they do. And absolutely it was his first main roster championship. So I couldn't believe that. And that's just, it really is. That's surprising. We have Black and Ricochet versus The Bar in a tag match, obviously, that I believe the stipulation was that if Aleister Black and Ricochet won, then they would go to Fastlane to fight for the Raw Tag Team Championships. I think it was stipulated. Maybe I'm confused. Either way, that is what's happening, and they did win this match. Aleister Black and Ricochet, they make for a compelling team to watch. I'm starting to get more behind it. I'm pretty excited about the match for Fastlane. That's probably going to be one of the better matches on the card. I'm starting to just get more pumped in general for Fastlane. It's kind of a throwaway pay-per-view to me, but there's some good matches. There's some good matches there, and I don't know. We'll see what happens, because I think it would be neat to see Ricochet and Aleister Black. It would certainly be a gesture of goodwill by creative to give two smaller guys, and Vince McMahon, who's, make no mistake, the head of creative, to give two smaller guys coming out of the developmental territory of NXT, and they're smaller too, some gold on the main show. Raw still in Vince's mind is the main show, and I think in the mind of like the hardcore wrestling fans, it's the main show. And in my mind, it's the main show, even though SmackDown, other than the last couple of weeks, has been consistently better than Raw for probably about a year. It'd be interesting. It'd be a gesture of good faith for them to give Aleister Black and Ricochet the belts. It's already weird enough to see them on the main, not even on the pre-show, but on the main card of a pay-per-view, fighting for the tag championship. They've only been up, I guess it's been a little bit since Royal Rumble, pretty much right after Royal Rumble, right? Or maybe right after Elimination Chamber. 6 weeks. I'm going to say they've been up about 6 weeks. And I mean, that's impressive. So This might be a gesture of goodwill by creative. Either way, this was actually a pretty good match as far as just being fun to watch. The good guys win. If you're me, the good guys, I can't stand the bar. And I think we all saw that coming. But then Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev attack Aleister Black and Ricochet after the match, and the Hardy Boys come out, and there's this excellent spot where the Hardy Boys and Aleister Black and Ricochet are kind of working together against Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura in the bar, and it's fun. It's legitimately fun. I haven't seen Matt Hardy. I know I said this just the other week, but Matt Hardy looks legitimately pretty healthy again, and I don't know. It's heartening to see. I guess he's one of my favorites, and it's good to see him doing well. But this was an awesome spot. And then we have Naomi versus Mandy Rose, which is completely a squash match. But then Asuka sneaks up behind Mandy and Sonya as they're leaving the ring and gets a few licks in pretty good. There was a bit of a scare, I guess, with Asuka over the weekend at a SmackDown live show, or like a house show, SmackDown house show, and where she maybe it was reported that she maybe hurt her neck, and then she tweeted that she just tweaked her back and that she's okay and she was sorry to scare everybody or whatever. Well, she was at SmackDown on Tuesday and throwing around Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, so she must be doing okay. There's a little back of the house promo where AJ Styles, he's sticking up for Kofi Kingston in an interview, saying he deserves a title shot, and that the McMahons say they're listening to the WWE fans, but they're blatantly ignoring how they feel about Kofi Kingston. And Randy Orton comes out and says, "What are you doing saying anybody but yourself should have a title shot? I guess that's why it took you 15 years to get here," or something like that. So they're going to have something going on here soon, obviously. Maybe at WrestleMania. I would love to see them fight at WrestleMania. I mean, I would love that. That's a good fight. Those are two great guys to watch. And I mean, I'd be delighted. Anyway, then we have an Eric Rowan versus Kevin Owens. It's pretty much just a squash match. Had an intervention by guest commentator Daniel Bryan. And Mustafa Ali comes out, it looks like, to save Kevin Owens. And that's kind of all there is for that. I don't really care too much. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a good match. I'm looking forward to the match. But not with any sort of anticipation of not knowing what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen is Daniel Bryan's going to walk out the champion. So whatever. It should be fun, though. It should be fun to watch. Charlotte comes out. She coaxes Becky into coming out. They get into a crutch battle. Becky's being put over as put out there as a superhero of some sort right now. She's just dismantled Charlotte Flair. Charlotte got in a lot of good licks and was easily, once their verbal argument turned into a physical altercation, she was the dominant one in the first part of that. But then Becky, with one leg, comes out and basically just dominates Charlotte in the second half of their little scuffle and gets her in to disarm her, and security comes out and pulls everybody off or away from each other, and Becky says, I'll see you at Fastlane, and she beat her with one leg at the Royal Rumble. Maybe she's going to beat her with one leg at Fastlane too. I don't know. It looks like it. If she loses, apparently she's not going to be allowed in the WrestleMania match, is what they said at the end of SmackDown. Now, what they said at the end of Raw was that if she loses, she's done. I thought that meant she had to retire. So maybe it just means that her WrestleMania push is done, which maybe makes it slightly less of a no-brainer that Becky wins this match, because it's not a retirement match if she loses, it kind of made it sound like it might be. but I still think it's kind of a no-brainer. Becky wins this match, and we end up getting that triple threat at WrestleMania. Anyway, other match that's going to be at, you know what? No, I'm going to talk about Fastlane tomorrow. I'm going to get up tomorrow. I'm gonna get the Fastlane card in front of me, and I'm just going to talk for 10 minutes previewing Fastlane. I'm not going to do that tail end of this video and make this a 30-minute video. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow, and thanks for watching.